BBC News, hello, I'm Gareth Barlow. The United States government says it will ask the authorities in Mexico and Guatemala to find ways of reducing the flow of migrants and asylum seekers reaching its southern border. The US Press Secretary Jen Psaki said there was special concern about the growing number of unaccompanied children arriving at border crossings. Leonardo Rocha reports.
Ms. Psaki said the US wanted to work with Mexico and Guatemala to address the root causes of the problem. Most of the migrants who arrive at the US-Mexico border say they are looking for better living conditions and escaping widespread poverty and violence in Central America. Since taking office in January, Joe Biden has removed some of the tougher anti-immigration policies introduced during the Trump administration. Critics say that has led to a surge in illegal migration. A high-level US delegation is traveling to Mexico to discuss what they described as an effective and humane plan of action to manage migration in the region.
The government in Niger says the number of people now known to have been killed in attacks on Sunday by suspected Islamist militants is 137. Here's David Bamford.
Niger is facing an unprecedented onslaught of attacks by Islamist militants who carry out hit-and-run raids on isolated villages using motorbikes and pickup trucks. It's emerged that last Sunday's attack on 3 villages close to where the borders of Niger, Mali and Burkina Faso meet was particularly serious, with more than 130 civilians killed. There have been similar attacks on the other side of the frontier. 33 Malian soldiers were killed a week earlier.
In a coordinated action, a number of Western governments have imposed sanctions on China because of alleged human rights abuses against ethnic Uyghurs in Xinjiang. The European Union, the United States, Britain and Canada have targeted 4 individuals and an organisation. The EU was the first to act. Its announcement was swiftly followed by countermeasures from China. Beijing sanctioned 10 EU individuals and 4 organisations. A Polish writer and journalist has been charged with insulting the president by calling him a moron. Jakub Zulczyk could be jailed for 3 years. Poland has made it a crime to insult religious feelings, state leaders and symbols. With more details, here's Adam Easton in Warsaw.
The author and journalist was charged with using a word commonly construed as offensive, prosecutors said. Following the US presidential election, President Duda wrote a tweet to Joe Biden, in which he stopped short of recognizing his victory pending an announcement by the Electoral College, merely congratulating him instead on his successful campaign. In a social media post, Mr. Zulczyk derided President Duda's knowledge of the US electoral process and called him a moron.
World news from the BBC. The head of the World Health Organization, Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus, has called on more producers of coronavirus vaccines to follow AstraZeneca's example and license their technology to other manufacturers. Criticizing the growing gap between rich and poor countries administering vaccines, Dr. Tedros branded the situation as grotesque. Officials in Bangladesh say about 1,000 houses have been destroyed by a fire, which engulfs sections of the vast refugee camp at Cox's Bazar. A doctor with Save the Children who works at the camp, Dr. Nabila Issat, told the BBC the cramped conditions in the camp caused even more panic.
The fire was so massive that it was not controlled initially, and it took 4 hours to control the fire. You know, those Rohingya refugees, they're living in such congested place, and there are thousands of households in such congested camp. So it's very panicking situation.
A similar fire in the camps in January left thousands of people without shelter. The former head of Argentina's Navy, Rear Admiral Marcelo Sreur, is to spend 44 days in detention for failing to disclose information about the sinking 4 years ago of a submarine in the South Atlantic. 44 sailors died when the vessel, the San Juan, imploded and sank. The wreckage was only found a year ago. Experts believe the accident was caused by a technical fault. The mayor of the US capital, Washington, D.C., is pushing for the city to be made the country's 51st state. Muriel Bowser is testifying before Congress in support of a bill for statehood for the Democratic stronghold. More than 700,000 Americans live in Washington, D.C., more than in the states of Wyoming or Vermont. But while they can cast ballots in presidential elections, they have no representation in Congress. A bid last year in the House died in the Republican-controlled Senate. World News from the BBC.